Hi, my name is Janelle Groh, and this is a presentation on disruptive staff and workplace violence for my BSN at Pennsylvania College of Health Sciences. MarketBusinessNews.com describes workplace harassment as conduct that is unwanted by the recipient and which the perpetrator ought to know is offensive or annoying. Workplace incivility or harassment can lead to compromised patient care, leading cause of missed work days, increased financial burden on healthcare systems, psychological effects including anxiety, depression, humiliation, stress, loss of confidence, self-esteem, and feelings of powerlessness. Physical responses to verbal abuse include reports of headaches, sleep disturbances, increased blood pressure, GI disturbances, and other illnesses. Healthcare workplace violence is an underreported, ubiquitous, and persistent problem that has been tolerated and largely ignored. The CDC and NIOSH define workplace violence as an act or threat of violence ranging from verbal abuse to physical assaults directed toward persons at work or on duty. The impact of workplace violence can range from psychological issues to physical injury or even death. Violence can occur in any workplace and among any type of worker, but the risk for fatal violence is greater for workers in sales, protective services, and transportation, while the risk for non-fatal violence resulting in days away from work is greatest for healthcare and social assistance workers. OSHA breaks down workplace violence into 4 categories. Violence by strangers, which would be things like robbery or burglary, violence by clients or patients to an employee, violence by coworkers, and violence by personal relations, domestic disputes that can sometimes happen at work. Workplace violence in healthcare occurs more than in other workplace settings in the U.S. Risk factors for workplace violence would be working understaffed, having long wait times, overcrowded waiting rooms, working alone, inadequate security, unlimited public access, poorly lit corridors, rooms, and parking lots. 100% of ER nurses reported verbal assault and 82.1% reported physical violence. Most estimates of workplace violence only include the crimes that were reported to employers, or police, which makes statistics underreported, which is uncommon because statistics normally are overinflated. All employees should recognize the signs of escalating violence, know the organization's violence policies, and be prepared to protect their patients, their visitors, and themselves. Warning signs to watch for someone that would become violent are clenched fists, blank stare, fighting stance, arm raised in a fighting position, standing too close or advancing toward you, holding anything that might be used as a weapon, which could be even something like a pen, overt intent, saying things that they intend to do to the patient or the employee, movement toward the exit to prevent you from being able to leave or escape that area. Most hospitals have signage like these to let everyone know that violence and harassment will not be tolerated. Ambulance companies have started hanging them in their ambulances too. The first sign that's on this slide I took at Lancaster General ER, which is where I work. And as you can see, it says to protect our staff and patients, we cannot tolerate such behavior as aggressive physical behavior, verbal harassment including abusive or sexual language, threats of any kind, damage to property. Our organization has a zero tolerance for all forms of aggression, and incidents may result in removal from the facility and criminal prosecution. Please help us to protect you, our staff, and other patients and visitors. Ways to prevent workplace violence is educating staff to recognize warning signs of violence, potential assailants, or agitators. Teach conflict resolution skills. Teach de-escalation tactics. And be careful when storing health instruments, stethoscopes, hemostats, scissors. They could all be used as weapons. And make sure reporting is happening. Employees need to know how to report workplace violence and whom to report, as well as how to document problem situations. Employees should be reassured that reporting threatening behavior will not result in repercussions to them. Post-incident follow-up. Be certain that everyone is safe following a violent event. Arrange immediate treatment for the injured. Complete injury and incident reports. Follow up with HR regarding the workers' compensation for the injured employees. Contact security to determine if a police report should be filed. Contact the injured employee at home to express concern for the person's well-being and follow up with any questions that they may have. This is something that the American Nurse Association has been doing. They tweet little sayings, and they all use the hashtag End Nurse Abuse. So here are just 5 that I saw that I thought were very good for this presentation. 1 in 4 nurses has been physically assaulted at work, and that's not okay. A grown man once bragged about intentionally missing the urinal and peeing on my feet because I put his bed alarm on. Please don't endanger my life while I'm trying to save yours. A nurse should never be afraid at work. A surgeon threw a scalpel at me while his patient was sedated on the table. And that just goes to show you too that workplace violence is not always patients. It can be the coworkers and the people we are working with also. And here's a video that I would like to share with you.
For today, we are going to start talking about cognition.
Britt Phillips didn't grow up dreaming of being a nurse.
I always joke my high school counselor told me I had to pick something to do with my life, and she said this would be a good idea for me. And so I did.
That was 2 decades ago.
I truly love being a nurse.
She hasn't looked back, not even when most of us would have.
I was attacked. It was July 2015. I was working a night shift at a hospital.
Britt says she was helping a patient with a personality disorder at SSM Health St. Joseph Hospital in Wentzville.
I had to step in and prevent her from hurting herself. In the process of doing that, she managed to pick me up and throw me against the wall and against the floor several different times.
This cut on her back is from the impact with a TV.
When help did get there, she still was very combative and aggressive and threw me a couple more times.
Britt was out of work for a month recovering from her mostly internal injuries. She says the physical reminder of the attack hasn't gone away.
Definitely, I still feel it.
Her story isn't unique. 5 on Your Side found more than a dozen people in the St. Louis area criminally charged for attacking hospital staff just since June. Court documents show one patient at Barnes Jewish Hospital punched a nurse so hard that nurse fell backwards and cracked his skull on the floor. He didn't regain consciousness for 24 hours.
I think we're seeing it on the rise, not just here in St. Louis, but across the country.
Kathy Bonser is the Chief Nursing Officer for SSM Health St. Louis.
Why do you think the problem is growing?
Not only do we have just the burgeoning mental health crisis that is across our nation, but also the rampant opioid abuse.
The Bureau of Labor Statistics says a nurse was the victim in more than 80% of attacks by patients from 2012 to 2017. But that was 2 years ago.
Because we don't have any idea really how big the crisis is at all.
That's why the Missouri Nurses Association is working to get legislation passed that would require hospitals to document every incident.
And then the state would then report out those numbers.
SSM Health started tracking incidents of verbal and physical abuse in their facilities this year.
Just trying to understand what events took place that led up to this. So what can we learn and do differently to keep our employees safe?
At SSM Health St. Mary's Emergency Department, they've also installed signs to warn patients and visitors aggressive behavior will not be tolerated.
It's one of the fundamental aspects of my job, is to keep my employees safe.
They've increased the use of their metal detector, and they're part of a pilot program testing personal alarms for staff. All part of a new reality of danger on the job.
So if I'm staring you down and like walking you down, how do you feel right now?
Just so scared.
Yeah.
For Britt, it's personal.
they're going to become defensive and they might start lashing out.
Her mission is to teach the next generation of nurses how to protect themselves while helping others.
I don't see this issue resolving anytime soon. And so I want my students to have the tools that they need, no matter what setting they end up in, that they can keep themselves safe. For today, we are going.
And this is, I'm not going to show the whole video, but this is another clip, and this is from Australia. And I just want to show that when I first started researching this, I was focused on the United States, but so much data was showing from other countries that it is definitely a worldwide issue that is going on. So here's just a small clip of this.
I said, my name's Graham, I'm your nurse. He's turned around to me and he's king hit me.
When I was pregnant with my daughter, I was punched in the stomach by an intoxicated patient.
This has been 3 years since I've been assaulted and it's not getting better. The system needs to change because it is on the rise. It's not going away.
Hospitals are where we go when we're ill or injured and need help the most.
We're often seeing people as nurses on the worst days of their lives. So we certainly have a lot of emotions that are running high. We also have people coming in with alcohol on board. We have people coming in with substance misuse and mental health issues. And sometimes they will have all three. Bit of a recipe, I think, for the potential for violence.
Am I talking to you?
This is the first time that I've been here since I was assaulted here in February of 2016.
For the first time in 2 years, Graham Levy's returned to the scene of a violent crime that ended his nursing career.
I went to work as I usually did. I was given a patient to look after who was critically unwell.
Graham loved being a nurse, a job he's done since 1992. Until one day in February 2016, when he was working at Macquarie Hospital, a mental health facility in northern Sydney.
I said, hi, my name's Graham, I'm your nurse. Would you like some hot water for a cup of coffee? He's turned around to me, started screaming at me, swearing, and he's king hit me. He was a large person, much larger than me, taller, heavier. King hit me. I was stunned. He hit me again. I went to the ground. He then kicked me twice in the head, kicked me in the abdomen. Injuries to the abdomen, which caused a 15 centimetre hole to be kicked in my abdomen. As a result of the assault, my limit of movement in my neck, and I've lost 8% hearing on top of that.
It's okay, I'm here. It's okay. Despite growing awareness of the dangers nurses face and campaigns to highlight them, the problem is getting worse, not better.
I'm not going anywhere, I'm staying here.
According to the Victorian Crime Statistics Agency, the number of victims assaulted in that state's healthcare premises has increased by 60% since 2015. And crime data in New South Wales shows that over the same period, assaults on hospital grounds are up by 44%.
What can you tell me about the vital signs?
This is Senate Bill 842 that was passed to allow healthcare workers to omit their last name from their ID badges. They were finding that patients with access to technologies and social media were looking up healthcare workers and possibly assaulting them or stalking them. So this was passed, which is great for our safety as healthcare workers. And these are my references. I hope that you have learned something about workplace violence and ways to protect yourselves and what to be looking for. Thank you for watching.